it is a different world, and everybody's adjusting. You looked into that pretty extensively. What did you find?
Yeah, we wanted to take a look at how this is impacting everybody, right? Athletes, the different boosters that are jumping in the schools themselves. And look, there's a lot of interesting stuff of how this is evolving and where it's all headed. One of the most common things we heard is this is a stop on the way to a final destination. This isn't an end route at this point. Everything's still very much fluid. But one of the things that really stood out to me as what's changed from now until, from where we were last year up until now, a year later, is how heavily involved schools are. When this first came online last year, most schools didn't want to touch NIL with a 10-foot pole. They didn't want to get involved. They weren't sure what the rules are. But heading into this summer and into this fall, we've already seen a lot of schools really beef up their approach to helping athletes do as much as they possibly can to basically put money in the pockets of their players.
Dan, what are they doing? Because they're limited to a point. But we just heard and you learned a lot. What did you pick up?
Right. So yeah, to be clear, schools can't pay players directly. Still, that's a big Rubicon that the NCAA isn't comfortable to cross. But many schools are building out departments right now where not only are they teaching athletes about how to build your brand or how to go find deals if you want them, but in places where they're allowed, schools are going out and directly sort of fostering deals for athletes, almost building in-house like marketing agencies and going to find local sponsors and say, hey, do you want to work with our athletes? Do you want to sign a deal with this guy? So there are a lot of different tools right now that schools are building to try to help their athletes and try to work with some of the collective and booster funds that have popped up. But, as you saw in that piece, right, we were down at LSU and they've hired a whole group of people to be in the athletic department whose job is to go out and find deals so that athletes can work directly with sponsors and make money from them.
I'll try not to use the word hypocrisy too much in this next question, but the NCAA won't allow schools to pay players, but schools can pay people to help facilitate deals. Can you figure that one out for the rest of us who don't understand?
Yeah, the sliding scales of amateurism have slid quite a bit, and like at this point, there is still a firm distinction, but it is a thin membrane and a technicality in a lot of ways, right? If you're taking a sponsor who used to pay money directly to the athletic department and saying, hey, why not, instead of giving some of that money to us, why don't you just ship it over to our players here, and you're arranging that whole setup, it's not all that much different. It's not a large leap to get to this money that otherwise would have been in the coffers of a college is now in the pockets of players. There is a firm distinction, and one of the things that the NCAA really wants to avoid for all kinds of legal reasons, whether it's Title IX or whether it's the way that they would have to tax scholarships or think of this as they don't want to have an employer-employee relationship with their athletes. And a lot of the athletic directors I talked to and working on these stories and just in general this summer basically said, listen, let's go as far as we possibly can go up to the line of helping our athletes make money without actually being their employer and having them be our employee. And they're finding some really creative ways to do that.
And Dan, how much time, energy, and money are athletic departments employing and using in this particular category right now?
So it is, I don't think this is news to your listeners, but it is definitely the newest front on the recruiting, weapons race for recruiting. Schools are building out full departments, full-time staff. They're hiring consultants to try to find these deals for players. Again, down at LSU, they're building out a full suite of sort of podcast studio and a photo room and a place where people can record videos in hopes that at some point down the line, athletes will be able to use all of those tools to create good content, to bring in, to get brands interested in signing deals with them. Whatever tool they can give to an athlete, a lot of schools are actively trying to do that. And so, talking to folks down there and elsewhere, they say, look, we invest a lot of money in nutrition. We invest a lot of money in helping our athletes with academic services. We invest a lot of money in making sure their mental health is there. NIL is the same kind of thing now, where we have to invest heavily in making sure our athletes can make the most out of this. And as we've said, this all comes back to being able to sell that in a recruiting pitch.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.